Hi, thank you guys so much for having me here. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here and speak and tell you guys a little bit about my story and my life. As you know, I'm Regina Armstrong, and I am a heart transplant and kidney recipient. When I was 12 years old, back in 1987, I was really ill. This is my sixth grade picture. I was actually in a talent show, and a week later is when I ended up with a heart transplant. I ended up with influenza A. It was a flu-like virus that went to my heart and caused cardiomyopathy. It enlarged my heart 10 times the size it was supposed to, blocked my lungs, blocked everything that was capable of me living and breathing. After this, I literally did a whole dance team. I went to sleep in my friend's lap that night and ended up in the hospital the next day. It took 3 hospitals to find out exactly what was wrong with me. My first hospital was Los Alamitos, which was my primary care. They knew there was my heart, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Within an hour and a half time, I was transported to Long Beach Memorial. I was there for 3 days and 3 nights. Again, they knew it had to do something with my heart, but they couldn't figure out what to do about it. They point blank told me and my family that I was going to just die. That's something really harsh to hear a doctor say to a 12-year-old. I didn't understand the extent of my sickness. In reality, in the back of my head, all I cared about was going to 6th grade camp. After being at the Los Alamitos Hospital, or Long Beach Memorial, there was another solution, and that was to take me to UCLA. They asked me if I wanted to be flown by helicopter. I don't know why they asked a 12-year-old if they want to be flown by helicopter or not, but they did. My answer was no. I want to go by ambulance. I was told, because I was so sick, I did start losing conscious. I started losing my memory and going in and out of things, that I was told that en route to UCLA that I had to be revived. When I got to UCLA, I do remember a lot of doctors being on top of me, going through a lot of things, trying to figure things out. I was told that they were able to finally reduce my heart back into size, and I believe this was within a day. However, my mom told me that as I was sitting there in the hospital bed with her, that I kept telling her, there's a pain. Can you please make it go away? It really hurts. Little did I know that I was having a heart attack. At that point, I had a heart attack. They rushed my parents out into the waiting room and told them, your daughter needs a heart transplant. As you can see over here, all my prednisone. I did receive my heart transplant within a week. They put me in an induced coma until I was able to receive my new heart. My heart came from a 16-year-old who died in a car accident. Back in '87, it was not very common to be doing transplants. Therefore, there was not a big education on the awareness of donors. My donor family was very skeptical of not giving me their daughter's heart. The mother was continuously saying no, and this was all at the hospital. Finally, the father was the one who said, yes, let's please save this girl's life. The heart, unfortunately, was not supposed to be compatible. It was to be given to me long enough to find another heart and to just let me live while I could. 32 years later, I'm standing here talking. I'm living, and my heart is very much compatible. My heart beats very much like any other person's heart. Sitting in this room, I have been told by my doctors that my heart looks like I never had a heart transplant. This is something that's very unusual and very rare, but I'm very blessed and very grateful. I don't know my donor. I don't know anything about her, and I've never met the family. I'm sad about that, but I'm okay with that. I just would hope that one day they would be able to see me and say, we did a right thing. I went through a lot with my heart transplant. When I was in the hospital, it wasn't one of those things like they do now, 2 weeks, you get a transplant and out you go. I was in the hospital for 3 months. During the heart transplant procedure, I received the heart transplant, and within 24 hours, I had a whole neck blood clot next to the heart. There was nothing wrong with the heart, but there was a blood clot there. And they were giving me gentamicin for the viral flu on top of the transplant. I went in for my second surgery to find out what they could do to close up that hole, blood clot, and when I woke up, I couldn't hear. I'm considered a deaf patient. I lost 90% of my hearing due to the anesthesia and from the gentamicin. I have a cochlear implant. I am very grateful to have. I went all my life lip reading. I never did sign language. I went to high school. I went to college reading everybody's lips. I was okay with that. And I think that God prepared me in a different way in my life. And it was hard at 12 years old, who also still didn't care about any of this, but going to 6th grade camp, which I never got to do. I did have dialysis for 6 months during my transplant due to the fact that everything took a toll on my kidneys. After 6 months, everything was great. I did awesome, and I was able to go home actually on my mom's birthday. Being at home was different. I was very well known. I lived in LA, in Bellflower, and everybody knew me. I couldn't go anywhere without somebody saying, "How are you feeling today?" And being the 13-year-old at that time, I have the little remark of, "I'm feeling fine, how are you feeling?" Or, "I'm feeling great with my hands," just random stuff. I wanted to go back to school. I wanted to just be a teenager. I just wanted to live life. I didn't want to go to the doctors. I didn't want to have biopsies twice a week. I had so many biopsies, I finally told my doctors, "I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore." Not that I didn't want to keep living my life or taking the medicines that I absolutely hated. I was just done with the doctors. I was just done going all the time, and I just wanted to be a teenager. That was it. Biopsies were harsh. I actually have scars on my neck that I consider my vampire neck. They're not easy on a transplant patient. They hit nerves. They pushing, they're pulling, they're doing so much, and you're awake during all of it. And even as an adult now, I don't do this here anymore, but even as an adult now, they're not fun, and they're very painful. I do it through the angel of my left leg. It takes tolls on our veins. It takes tolls on our bodies. For the longest time, I had to do it right calf. I can no longer do that because my right side is shot from doing so many angiograms in my leg. They're way better than your neck, but it's still not any better. My life continued great in my eyes, very healthy. I did have rejections for the longest time. My parents were always upset about that, and I would tell them, "Why are you guys upset? I'm the one who's got to go back to the hospital and get an IV back in my arm with more antibiotics." But I understood. As a parent, they don't want to see their child go through all of this. I was able to go to school, live my life, and do the things that I enjoyed doing. I'm a mom. Sorry. My son just turned 17 yesterday. He is the highlight of my life, and I was told I could never have children just because of the harsh medications that we take on our bodies. I was actually the 7th transplant patient at UCLA to have a child. He's from UCLA also. He's healthy, he's amazing, and I wouldn't not want to do what I've done because I cannot show him, I would not have been able to show him what I have accomplished in life. Through the years, I met my husband. He is my high school sweetheart. We have a unique relationship. He's been by my side through a lot. He decided to take over that girl that in my eyes had the medical problems or the deaf girl, I would tell people, and he looked past all of that. My husband, in 2004, had a mishap, and he blew off his hand with a grenade launcher in Barstow. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because my husband had a hand transplant done back in Louisville, Kentucky, 2006, if I'm correct. My mom felt that if they can do hearts, kidneys, livers, they can do hands. So she actually found this hospital, Louisville, Kentucky, University, to do hand transplantation, and they do. My husband was the 4th hand transplant in the United States. He is the first unsuccessful hand transplant in the United States. The medications that he took were the exact same medications that I still take to this day, 32 years ago, Gengraf and Celocept or Imuran. However, the doctor felt that it was in the best interest to experiment on him. Why, I don't know. There was only 4 of them in the United States. His arteries started closing up in his arm and started bruising really bad. And we started noticing a lot of bruising. I thought he was just hurting himself on accident, bumping it, whatnot. Because the doctors told him, go about your life. Do what you normally do. It was an amazing, amazing experience. It was an amazing procedure. The hand worked amazingly, and it was from a donor. However, by the time I got to Louisville, they had to take it off because it was completely deceased. My husband is still a right-hand amputee. As you can see in most of our pictures, he never stands anywhere where everybody can see it. However, I try to encourage him that even though yours was outer, mine was inner. And I tried to help him through that and let him know that he's still a part of that transplant life, in a sense. Our story, a lot of people say, is very unique because they've never met a family or a husband and wife who both have had transplants that are totally different. The transplantation of hands is a remarkable thing. It's the same thing that we go through as a heart, kidney, or lung. Just, like I said, there's just outer and ours is inner. Excuse me. I'm now a preschool teacher. I've been teaching for over 20 years. I absolutely love it. Last summer, I was told, before I say that, when I had my heart transplant, I did receive hepatitis C. They did not check for any of that stuff with blood transfusions, so I ended up with hepatitis C all the way up to 32 years of my life. Last year during the summer, I was in the process of taking the new medication for the hepatitis C, and I was all for it. And my doctors had been casually watching my kidneys and everything and what's been going on with it. And they're like, let's hold off on that for a minute. I'm like, okay, what's that? And they're like, you are now down to 15% kidney function. I said, all right, what does that mean? Like, we're going to have to start thinking about a kidney transplant. I said, okay, let's do it. Tell me what I got to do. I told my husband and my son, and they're like, all right, what do we got to do? And I said, well, let's get all the testing done. My husband was not a match. My son was. However, I did not want to put my son through that. As a mom, that's just not what I wanted. I did not want to go through what seeing my mom went through when I was younger. I waited exactly 2 weeks for a kidney. I was very blessed and very grateful for that. I will have had my kidney transplant for 1 year this month on New Year's Eve. My donor was deceased. She was 20 years old. She was a high-risk patient, therefore she too had hepatitis C. When I was asked if I wanted to take it, I said, heck yeah, let's do this. I have taken my treatments this year, and I'm totally cured of hepatitis C. I'm thankful for that. Not that it's ever been an issue in my life, but I'm very blessed and happy about that. My son, however, does have hepatitis C due to the pregnancy. He is actually on treatments right now, and he finishes at the end of this year also, and he's doing great. He's never been sick in his life. So I'm very grateful that he's going through that too now. I'm very involved into the Donate Life Walk. I have been featured in being a part of the most transplants in one location in the world record book. That was also really fun. The Donate Life Walk is an amazing experience. You meet lots of recipients, you meet lots of donor families, and you meet people that have just inspired you into being a transplant or what being a transplant is all about. In the picture on the right is me and an actual friend who is also a heart transplant patient. She had 3 hearts and 1 kidney. We were the only 2 transplants at UCLA that were considered the children. However, we were never in the children ward. We were always in the adult ward because we didn't have one as far as the children ward. We were honored here at the Donate Life Walk for 30 years plus as a heart transplant. It was a very amazing experience. It was a way of honoring my donors and all that they've done for me. This year in February, after my kidney transplant, I decided I needed to do more to get the word out on organ and tissue donation. I've always known in my head that I've always wanted to do something, but I just didn't know quite what it was. And that's when I decided to sign up to be a One Legacy ambassador. Since February, I have done so many events that I can't keep track right now. This is actually my last event of the year because I have a lot of other things that are going on now. But it has been rewarding, and it has been amazing. There's just really no words to explain it, what I've gone through just being an ambassador right now and the people that I have met. I relate a lot to the children transplantation, and I think a lot of it has to do with me being 12 years old, and there wasn't many children around. So now I give a lot of hope and inspiration to parents that have children who have just had a transplant. I'm able to show them that their child will one day be able to be, hopefully as old as I am, have a life that I've had, have children, and enjoy everything that they've ever wanted to do. I don't let anything stop me, and I never have. I'm the first one to do something one time, and if I don't like it, that's it. But I've always been very spontaneous and always just go with the flow. And I think being a transplant, that's all you can really do is just keep going. Don't let the sickness get to you. I'm now this year going to be featured as a Rose Parade float on the Donate Life. I'm very honored and privileged to be on this. However, I told my doctors it's about time. I told them after 32 years and now it's kidney, you're finally putting me on this thing. I said, it's all right. I must be your oldest veteran on there. They said, I actually am. And I was like, okay. But I'm very excited about it. It's just going to be a true experience. It's the best way to honor my donors, both donors now. The medications that we take are very, very harsh on our bodies. It's unbelievably harsh how much it happened. The kidney transplant obviously was due to the harsh medications I've taken, the same medications I've taken all my life. I've never changed from a different medication. I never tried Prograf or all these other different name brands because my thing to my doctors was, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Plus, I was allergic to just about everything. Every new thing that came out, I was allergic to it. My angiograms, I tried 1 year to go through your arm. There's a different way to go about it. I loved it. I have to say I actually loved it. However, after doing that, my heart transplant doctor at Kaiser said, we're not doing that again. And I said, why not? I loved it. You don't have to go through my leg. You don't have to go through my neck. It's way easier. Well, studies are starting to show that there is going to be nerve damage in your arm after continuously doing this. So we're back to square one, and that's going back in the leg or your neck. And I'm just like, So, unfortunately, that's where we're at again. I always hope and pray that they'll come out with something totally different for us as a patient, besides laying on this little bed and being poked and picked at from a doctor with no kind of like relaxing. Maybe that day will come. I don't know. I would love for their medications to be less harsh on our bodies. On the outside, I look normal. On the inside, at a very young age, I received gout in my feet, rheumatoid arthritis, at 20 years old. Got that under control. However, due to the long term of that, I lost my muscle loss in my thighs and my legs. I can no longer really go up steps. I cannot jump, and I cannot run. Let me tell you, it's not something I like. I am doing physical therapy for this. However, I don't know if it's ever going to get better or not. So we take a medication to help a medication, but that medication ends up destroying something else in our bodies. But unfortunately, I just keep going. That's what I have to do. That's what I want to do. I want to be here for my son. I want to see him grow up. I want to see him accomplish so much in his life. What's funny about my son is he figures transplants is just normal in our family. He's like, I'm like, well, don't you support all this and that? And he's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, well, what do you mean you guess? He's like, well, it's that part of my life, Mom. I mean, that's all I know. He goes, but I'm there for cancer. And I said, well, great. I want you to be there for cancer too, but donor awareness is very important also, honey. So when he got his driver's license, I asked him, are you going to be a donor? And he's like, should I? I was like, that's exactly the look I gave him. I was like, you better put that pink dot on your driver's license. He did. He had no problem. But our life is just very simple as much as it can be, but it can be very hectic at the same time. That's really about my life. I'm enjoying it, and I'm ready for the long haul of another great many years with my heart, hopefully 33 years in March of next year with an angio. And I just hope and pray for many more years with my kidney too. So with that being said, I thank you guys so much for having me here. And if you have any questions, I'm here for that. She was 16 years old. 16.
Are the drugs different for when you add the kidney transplant? Do you have to take additional drugs or the same? Or
say that again?
When you had the kidney transplant, do you have to take different drugs than when you had with the heart?
My medication just only changed as far as a higher dosage, and they add the prednisone. And I was like, really, guys? I haven't been on prednisone in forever. It's 5 milligrams a day, and I keep pushing my doctors to get me off of it. And they're like, no. And I'm like, I'll get there. But no, it's all been the same. I haven't added or changed anything.
I just wanted to thank you. I mean, just your story inspires, every one of us inspires me, and I just appreciate you being very vulnerable and transparent with your journey, and I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
About medication, like what would make it easier for you? Because you have this group of scientists and supporting people, and we want to know, from your perspective, your double recipient.
It would be amazing not to take the drugs. It really would be. I mean, if this was the real world, it would be amazing not to take these drugs. But I know that no matter what, I'll have to take them for the rest of my life. I know that with 3 days without my medication, I can go into cardiac arrest or die. I know that. And I will never forget that. I wish that they could come up, even if it was a shot. I was heard for years that they were coming up with a shot for us where we do it once a month or once every 2 weeks or something that would be a little bit less harsh on our bodies and our organs, because now I'm messing up all of my other organs, in order to stay alive. That would be amazing. As far as the angios, I do the stress test 2 years, and then the third year I do my angio. which I'm okay with that. I like the stress test. I'm okay with that. It's less harsh on your bodies. You don't have all that dye in your bodies that are also hurting your kidneys. But I know it's not the proper or the best way to see what's really going on with the heart and the arteries and the function and everything else that's going on inside there. So I know they have to go in there and they have to take the imaging. They have to take the tissue samples. However, with me, they don't do the tissue sampling because they said that since my heart grew back like a normal heart, that it's so painful for me that they won't take the tissues from me anymore. That it's unbearable. It feels like they're taking a chunk of your heart out. And it's really just a little micro something. I literally watch everything they do. I'm like, can I have a mirror? And like when I'm laying there, I say, can you guys put a mirror there? I want to see what you guys are doing. I'm that person. They're like, you don't want to, like, no, I want to know what instrument you're using. I want to know what all that stuff is. And I do. And however, I can't watch the machine that when they have the thing going up there. I'm like, oh, okay. And that I can do. But I can watch the cutting. I can watch the blood. I don't care about that stuff. But I mean, I wish we didn't have to do that. I wish there could be a better imaging or a better way of being able to show our arteries besides an echo, because the echo is really all that we get unless you're doing an angio, and that is showing exactly like I see my heart, I see it pumping, I see the veins, I see everything that they're doing, and I know that's a better image for them. But for us, it's damaging more of my body. It's damaging my arteries. It's damaging anything. I mean, I can go through nerve damage with that also. So, and that's just from long term. I know for a lot of transplants, it's only short term for them because they've only had it for so long, like a year or so. But for someone who's had it for 32 years, it does take a toll on our bodies. And I did notice that with my kidney transplant, my body is more sensitive now. Getting blood work now is just like, oh my gosh, like it hurts, and I don't know why. And that's another thing. They can't go on my left arm because I had dialysis in that when I was younger. So therefore, I have the scarring here. And when they're like, oh, but you have great veins over there, I'm like, guess what? Can't have them. You are stuck with this one. And over here, they're having a hard time trying to find a vein because of so many years of using it. So I do wish that we could have better imaging maybe, or there's got to be a way. I know there's a way. There's going to be someone out there that's smart enough to find out how to do it. And drug-wise, yeah, we definitely need something that's going to be way less harsh on our bodies, because transplants is a big thing now. And there's so many that are waiting. And I'm very blessed, like I said, to know that I didn't have to wait as long as I did. I'm very blessed I didn't have to go on dialysis and shorten my lifespan on that too.
What's the thing that's helped you the most through the whole process?
What helped me most is that?
What's helped you the most throughout the whole process?
With the whole process? My son. I have to say my son. Even before I had him, I was still determined. I mean, as a child, it's you don't have a big support group back then, like they do now. But back then, my home life was not bad, but it was hard. It was hard on the family. I had to come home with a nurse, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be independent. She had to tell me what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, and I was like, no, not happening. We would get into fights, and I would tell her, I'm going to get you fired. Of course, my mom's not going to go for that. But it was hard, and my hope was just to be a teenager, and my hope was also to have that heart for a long time. Every time I went in for a biopsy or for an angio, it does stick in the back of your mind. Are they going to find something? Are they going to say, hey, your arteries are bad, you're going to need another transplant? And it still goes on like that for me no matter what, even now. I'm already thinking my 33rd year, and I'm like, okay, but I have a lot of faith. And my hope is to keep going and not let anything stop me. I mean, if in my eyes, I've lived a good life. And if it's my time, it's my time. But my hope is my son. He gives me a lot of hope. And being able to show my donor families that I have been able to make it this far by doing an ultimate sacrifice that they had to do for their loved one.
Sorry, just to let everybody know, when you ask them a question, please use a microphone so everybody over WebEx can hear.
As you've gotten more involved with Donate for Life, what are some of the objections or reasons you hear people don't want to donate? And how can we do better as an industry to get more people involved?
My biggest one that somebody told me that the reason why they did not want to sign up to be an organ donor is because they felt that, how did he say that? He felt it wasn't a need. And I was like, this was before I told him I was a heart transplant. And I was like, what do you mean it's not a need? Because I just don't feel there's a purpose for it. Why give my organs to somebody? What are they going to use it for? I said, well, that's what I'm here to tell you about. I told him, and he was an older gentleman, and his wife was very about being a donor. In fact, she was a registered donor. And she's like, nobody's going to change his mind. So I told him, well, I'm standing before you, and I'm a heart transplant. And because someone gave that gift, checked off that little box at the DMV, I'm here talking to you right now, 32 years later. His mouth dropped. He stopped everything he did, and he signed up to be an organ donor that day with me. I've had also people tell me that they're afraid that the doctors are not going to save their life. And we assure them 100% that your life matters before a donor's death or recipient. The doctors are going to do everything in their power to make sure you stay alive first. And they think it's just that concept of thinking, oh, well, they're just going to let me die. They just want my organs. You know, it's like, it's not like that. You know, they're going to make sure that you're alive and they stay alive. And it actually, which I learned, I did not know, it takes 3 doctors that do not know anything about your case to confirm that you are pronounced dead. And it has to be brain dead or cardiovascular dead. And I was like, that's amazing. I mean, and it's not their doctor or primary doctor or whatever. It's actually 3 different doctors that know nothing about the case. So that is something I can reassure people also. So I've had that. I've had some people tell me, well, I want to be an organ donor. My family knows, but I'm not going to sign up. And I was like, well, what happens if something happens to your family? And you need an organ, I mean, somebody needs an organ and you pass away. No one's going to know. So we'll not worry about it when that time comes. I was like, okay, no.
From the patient advocacy standpoint, what type of educational information will be helpful for patients and their caregivers?
I'm sorry, say that again?
From the patient advocacy standpoint, what type of educational information will be helpful for the patients and their caregivers? Scientifically, financially?
The financial aid would probably be the biggest one.
Okay.
The financial aid in that. For me, having my insurance and that was very great to have. I'm with Kaiser. However, I had my transplant at Cedars. And that was just, I only chose that hospital because my heart transplant doctors are over there now instead of UCLA. So it made more sense for me to go there. But when I was younger, yes, I was under my parents' insurance, but it was hard for them, from my understanding, because there was so much with the medication buying, going to the doctors. A lot of that stuff was not covered. So we had to do a lot of fundraising. Nowadays, I'm hearing from a lot of support groups that their insurances don't cover having a transplant. I'm like, what? That just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, for me, I guess it doesn't make sense. They'll cover anything else but having to save someone's life. But then I see congressmen or, famous people having organs for no problem. And I'm like, that shouldn't be the issue just because you're famous or you have more money. Because there are a lot of people out there waiting a long time for a transplant because of insurance, or they were told, no, you can't have a transplant because they didn't have the right insurance or they didn't have enough coverage for insurance. that we definitely is a big thing. Education-wise, we are really trying to push now to start in high school with the science teachers and stuff because of the younger generation as far as high schoolers. They are going to be the ones that are going to be able to go out there and promote this for us also. That's where our biggest thing for education is right now is starting in high school. Because our kids right now can sign up to be an organ donor up until they're 18 years old. You're still responsible for them until they're 18 years old. Thank you.
For those of you guys who don't know, Medicare does pay for organ transplant. They only pay 80%. So that means if you have an insurance company, they'll pick up the other 80. You still owe the rest. Okay, so if you get a liver transplant, that may be $1 million. You've got to pay the balance. Also, another quirk in the law, which is we were just talking about before we started this, Medicare, if you're under the age of 65, only pays for immunosuppression for 3 years. Immunosuppression costs $20,000 a year. That means if you hit 65, after 3 years, you've got to pay $20,000. As a result, many patients start skipping the medication because they can't afford it. There have been bills going through Congress. None of them have got passed anywhere. The cost of dialysis is over $100,000. The medication is $20,000, and it still failed. Because they figured, like Louise told me, you got your transplant, go back to work.
I'm considered $1 million baby. That's the way I look at it. I was told if I'm correct, my heart transplant was close to over $1 million, and then my kidney transplant was over $300,000. So, yeah, I'm glad that my medication is not a lot because of my insurance. I do pay a higher deductible, but a lower premium, or higher premium but lower deductible. So I do that, yeah.
I'm curious, what kind of challenges did you face when you were pregnant with your child as a recipient?
I'm sorry?
What kind of medical challenge do you have?
Medical challenges?
During your pregnancy.
I don't really have medical challenges. I don't look at it as medical challenge. I don't look at it as disabilities. The only thing that I have, like I said, is that I'm deaf. I have a cochlear implant. I relive. It helps me tremendously hear and understand things. I mean, I hear the air going on right now, things like that. And then the muscle loss on my legs right now. Other than that, I don't have any issues at all. Perfectly healthy and everything else. And I go bicycle riding as much as I can. I go camping. I go to the river. I'll go to amusement parks. The first time I went to, I think, on a roller coaster ride. I love how they say heart condition. I'm like, I'm there. Which is to bring another fact about the heart. I get that scared feeling. And I've been told by a lot of transplants that they don't get that scared feeling because the nerves are not there. So when I first had that, I was like, okay, well, that's normal, just like everybody else, right? My doctor's like, you're not supposed to have that. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not supposed to have that? Everybody needs to have that scared feeling. And I'm like, no, you're the way it's all connected, that you're not supposed to have that. So I was like, no, I don't get on anything. Yeah, no, I don't really have anything that I consider. I don't consider myself disabled. Even though I have a handicap placard, I will say that. My parents did that when I was younger, and it stayed with me all my life. Do I always park in handicap? No.
Did anyone ever, I shared how we do typing, we manufacture kits for typing. Did anyone ever explain to you how that worked? Finding the match, getting that phone call?
No, I've always wondered how they match people and how they accept that it was by, the tissue and the blood, things like that. Because like I said, my heart was not compatible. It was not a match at all. That was something else I didn't bring up. I actually have a piggyback heart transplant. When my heart enlarged, and they were able to put it back inside, they were able to keep the backside of my heart. and they put the donor's heart in the front of it. So when they stitched it all up, oh, sorry, there's other things I forgot about. When they stitched it back up, and I was told this as a young age. I mean, they told me everything when I was younger, and I was like, still don't care, just want to go to sixth grade camp. And that's just how it was. I sneezed for the first time, and I actually went because I was like, oh my gosh, what do you mean you sewed my heart together? and that's that concept. You're thinking you're going to pop those stitches open and there goes the heart or something. And but no, I was never told how they do that. I've always wondered, like, how do they choose somebody? And I even look at it with my kidneys. A lot of people are like, well, how did you get your kidneys so fast? I've been waiting for 8 to 10 years. And did you do something special? Were you on a special list? I don't think I was on any special list. I hope I wasn't on any special list because I would not want to have gotten my kidney because of that reason. Whether I wanted to be on dialysis or not, I would rather have gone to somebody who needed it way more than me, had been on it way too long, whatever it was. I was able to get it at a fast rate. I'm not going to complain, but no, I was never told how they do all that. And it's something that would love to know. I can pass it on to my ambassadors because they probably would love to know the same thing. That's why I'm here. Yeah.
Any other questions? None? All right. Well, if you do have any other questions, please feel free to come and ask her anything you feel you need to, or have a chat with her. She's more than willing. Thank you again for coming, and thank you so much, Regina. The work you do really does help the transplant community.